All right, 8th grade, we are starting topic 14, a unit on scatter plots. And I think that you're going to find this a nice break from the systems of equations we've been working on. So as we're looking at scatter plots, this is a way that we can help make sense of real world data that can be kind of messy. So this is going to help us organize some of that real world data. So our learning goal for today is to draw conclusions based on data given in a scatter plot. So a scatter plot is going to look something like this. Similar to most graphs that you're familiar with, we have a title that tells us about the data contained in our scatter plot. We have our x-axis labeled with a scale and units of measurement, and we have our y-axis labeled with the scale. You'll notice that these scales are different, which is fine as long as they are labeled. And then each of these points represents the relationship between these two variables. So when we look at a scatter plot, we know it's a type of graph, and we know it's going to use points to display the relationship between two sets of data. And each of these points can be represented by an ordered pair. So we're going to graph these just like every ordered pair that we've looked at this year and that you've been looking at for years. It's always going to be an x, y coordinate. So for this particular scatter plot, the y-axis represents the diameters of the trees in inches because we're looking at ages and diameters of trees to see as the trees age, how does their diameter increase. And the x-axis represents the age of the trees measured in years. So we could look at a point like this one here, and this is age 25, that's our x-coordinate, and the diameter of this tree is 8 inches. So in 25 years, this tree has grown to be 8 inches thick. And you can see in general, as the ages increase or as our points move to the right, the diameter also tends to increase or go up. So as the points generally move towards the right, they also seem to trend upward. So the data in this scatter plot might have been collected in a table like this. So our data can always be represented multiple ways. So this data looks like this in a scatter plot, but in a table, each of these points represents a different tree, so those might be listed A through Z, depending on how many points we have here. And to list it this way, remember age is our x-coordinate and diameter is on our y-axis, so that's our y-coordinate. So in our table, we have x, y ordered pairs for each point on this graph. And obviously, we've only listed the first 3 here. So when you are asked to label the coordinates of a highlighted point, we would just need to look at both the x and the y coordinate for this point. So this blue point would be 5 books weighing 6 pounds. So when they want to know what it represents, we could say that 5 books weigh 6 pounds. That's the information I get from this point. So take a second to look at the scatter plot and determine what the highlighted point tells you. You can pause the video if you like. As we look at this blue point, I see that the x-coordinate is 2 and the y-coordinate is 12,000. So that means that this car is 2 years old and it's worth $12,000. So I could say a 2-year-old car is worth $12,000. That would be interpreting that point. The other thing you'll be asked to do in section 14.1 with scatter plots is interpret the information. So we might have to look at the scatter plot and decide if these statements are true or not. So as we're looking at this scatter plot, it shows age and sleep time. So on the x-axis, we can see people's age measured in years, and on the y-axis, we can see the amount of time that they sleep in hours. So we can see that the younger people are, the more they tend to sleep. And if you think about babies, they sleep most of the day when they're first born. But as we get closer to 20, we continue to sleep less and less and less and less. So let's look at these statements. 2 people slept for 7 hours. So as I'm looking at my scatter plot, I'm looking for the number of people who slept 7 hours. So I'm going to find on my y-axis, 7 would be right here. So if this is 7, I want to see how many points go through this. And it appears that there are indeed 2 people who slept for 7 hours, and they're represented by these 2 points here. So I would say that is true. On part B, 5 people over the age of 12 were in the group. So as I look at the ages, here's 12. So I'm going to draw a vertical line here and see how many people were past this line. So this is saying 5 people were over the age of 12. And I see that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points here, but this point appears to be on 12 exactly. So this person appears to be 12 years old. So I don't think we could say that 5 people were over the age of 12 because this point was actually a person who was exactly 12. So only these 4 points are actually over age 12. So we'll say false, because that should have been a 4. And letter C, everyone in the group slept for at least 6 hours. So again, let's clean this up a little bit. Oops, it's not going to let me. Let's move some of this off so we can see better. So we're looking for people who slept at least 6 hours. So on my y-axis, here's 6. So everyone who slept at least 6 hours would be above this line. And all of these points are above 6 hours. So this would be true, that everybody in the group slept for at least 6 hours. Okay, your turn. So use the scatter plot to write a true statement about the climate data. So here we're looking at locations, and these locations are labeled in degrees north latitude. And we're comparing that to the mean annual precipitation measured in inches. So depending on your location in north latitude, how much rain or precipitation is that location receiving. So see if you can write a true statement about the climate data. This will be your ticket out the door, so write this on your Post-it so you can turn it in to me. Pause the video if you need more time. And then you may begin your homework 14.1 digits.